Okay. My name is Maddie,
I'm Nyla.
and this is our CP1 assignment. And our assignment is on telling time for a first grader.
So we'll be telling time on an analog and a digital clock using MP number 3.
So the MP number 3 is constructing viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others.
So basically what that means is that mathematically proficient students in first grade continue to develop their ability to clearly express, explain, organize, and consolidate their math thinking using both verbal and written representations.
Their understanding of grade appropriate vocabulary helps them to construct arguments about mathematics that are accurate and make sense.
In a classroom where risk-taking and varying perspectives are encouraged, mathematically proficient students are willing and eager to share their ideas with others, consider other ideas proposed by classmates, and question ideas that didn't seem to make sense before.
So then below on our PowerPoint, you will see a link that will guide you to our SIOP lesson. So the title of the lesson would be Telling Time on an Analog Clock and the Digital Clock.
Our student standards is going to be tell and write time in hours and half hours using analog and digital clocks.
The content objectives would be the student will be able to define the elements of a clock and its functions, as well as tell time to the hour with 100% accuracy.
And then our language objectives, the learner will be able to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others with 90% accuracy.
Key vocabulary would include the analog clock when it has moving hands and hours marked from 1 to 12 to show you the time.
And then a digital clock, a clock without hands that the numbers alone will show you the time.
Then the hour hand is the shorthand that shows you the hour the time is in.
And then the minute hand is going to be the long hand that shows you how many minutes have passed in the hour.
And then the half hour when the minute hand is pointing either at the 6 or the 12, and this is how you know half of 1 hour has passed.
So the teacher materials that will be needed, we need to have whiteboards, dry erase markers, erasers, and a worksheet.
The student materials will include the whiteboard, the markers, and an eraser.
So then we'll jump right into it and start with the lesson. So we'll talk to the kids and say it's important to know how to tell time so that you're not late to things that are important. So you wake up on time, you know how long it will take you to drive somewhere, things like that.
And engaging the learner focus will include, do we have any clocks in our room? Where are they? What do they look like? And can you point to them?
So then we'll go right into our instructional sequence, which is on our PowerPoint as example 1. We'll start talking about the analog clock.
So the analog clock will include the big hand, which is the hour hand, and this is where you would count by tens. Then the small hand, which is the minute hand, you will count by fives. The hours include 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And the half hours would include the 30.
So then as a class, we'll talk about the difference between an hour and a minute. So what can we get done in an hour? What can we get done in 1 minute? What can we get done in 30 minutes?
So then that will lead us into the conversation of the digital clock. So for the digital clock, you will include the hour, which is in front of the colon, and then the minute, which is after the colon.
And then we'll talk about how they look different. So how does the analog clock look compared to the digital clock, and what differences do we see, and what similarities are there?
So then that will lead us to example number 1. We have a picture of an analog clock that reads 2 o'clock. So we have a little note that says what to think about, where is the hour hand and where is the minute hand. We'll ask them what time does this clock read, and then they will write an answer on the whiteboard, and once everyone is done, we will ask them to turn to a partner on the left and explain how you got your answer, was it the same, and why was it different.
After that, we'll move on to example 2, which is just a little bit harder because it's the half hour instead of the hour. So we'll talk about where's the hour hand and where's the minute hand, and then on their whiteboards they'll write their answer about what time it is. The clock says 6:30, so then we'll be able to kind of assess everyone that way. They'll turn to their partner on the right and explain how they got their answer and see if it was the same or different from their partners.
After example 2, we will move on to example 3. This is when we turn to digital clocks. We have a example of a digital clock that reads 4:30. We will ask them what time does this clock read, and then they will write their answer on a whiteboard. And then after everyone's done, they will turn to a partner on the right and explain how you got your answer. Was it the same, and why was it different?
And then we'll do another example where it's on the hour instead of the 30 minutes, and they'll turn to their partner and explain how they got their answer. Their answer should say 12 o'clock. After that, we'll just kind of move on and go straight to the assessment.
So for our assessment, we will give them out a worksheet to work on independently. It is a time worksheet. So this is where you would match the analog clock and the digital clocks. So there's a section where there's the digital clocks, and then there is 3 choices for analog clocks, and they will put a box into the analog clock that matches the digital clock. And there is 5 of those questions.
So then once everyone's done with that, we'll go ahead and do a CP2, which is stand up, hand up, pair up. So they'll all stand up and put their hand up, find a partner, and then they'll go through whichever question they're directed to go through. So we'll go 1 through 5 as a class. If they're going to trade papers once they partner up, and give their partner an X if they get it wrong, or a star if they get it right, and explain how they got their answer to their partner.
After that, we will have reflection time where everyone will sit down and we will talk about what did we learn about telling time and the other strategies that were used from the different partners.
So some guidance questions that we could use or are going to be like, what does time help us do? How do we use it in our classroom? What can we do in an hour and in a minute again? And then to see what they learned, we'll just look over their worksheets and then also just kind of assess where they were at during the oral assessment.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. All right.